Hello there, my RPG lovers, and welcome to another video. Greedfall 2 just came out in early access on Steam.
I hate to interrupt your celebration, but we mustn't linger.
Yesterday, I completed this early access build of Greedfall 2, and I'm going to show you all the major features in the current builds. Spiders, the studio behind the game, said that the early access version is around 25% of the full game, and it will take you around 10 to 15 hours to complete it. There is also a roadmap of the early access that you can check out. The current build of the game has some bugs and visual glitches because it's obviously still in development. However, it's a decent chunk of the full game, which can show you what to expect from the final release. Huge thanks to Nacon for sponsoring this video and reaching out to the channel. You can check out the game by clicking on the link in the video description. Now, let me tell you about all major features in Greedfall 2 early access builds.
Since you offered, be my guest.
The story of Greedfall 2 takes place 3 years before the happenings of the first game. It begins very similar to Greedfall 1, which triggered my nostalgia for the first game a little bit. The story is about the constant struggle between the natives and the colonizers, with your character being in the middle of important events. Speaking of your character, this time around you played the game as a native of Tier 4D, and just like in the first game, you have the option to customize the looks of your character. The current version of the character creation doesn't have a lot of options, but I assume this feature will improve in the future because the first game had a lot of options for customizing the looks of your character. The gameplay side of things has a lot more options to customize the playstyle of your character, and we'll get to that very soon. Anyway, you and your companion called Nilan have to complete some quests in order to begin the process of initiation and become what natives call sages. You'll spend some time doing quests on Tier 3D, which is essentially just a tutorial map that's supposed to teach you basic game mechanics. For some reason I thought this is going to be all that early access has to offer, but I was wrong. The current build of the game has 2 more maps to explore, and the second map is bigger and more open, while the third one is the city of Uxantis. Just like the first game, Greedfall 2 is very heavy on the story, so all characters you meet are fully voice acted.
Somebody's there! At last! I thought I'd starve to death in this hole!
What happened?
Your character has a voice as well, so it's not a silent protagonist. More importantly, the game puts an emphasis on your decisions in the dialogue as well as the gameplay. This means that you can do quests in at least a couple of different ways, you can fail some of them, which can also decide the fate of some of your companions.
Damn it! What bad luck!
Near the end of the current early access build, there is a complex quest for one of your companions, and the way you do this quest will determine the fate of said companion. So there is a lot of talking and dialogue in the game, but you can also decide to skip some of it if that's what you prefer. However, this also affects the story and characters, which is pretty cool. Spiders once again try to make this system meaningful, just like in Greedfall 1. Your companions will approve or disapprove the decisions you make, and this should affect your relationship status with them. The romancing options are also planned for future updates, but that option is not present in the current builds. I managed to piss off my companion a couple of times, which gave me some minus points with him. And as far as I could tell, it usually makes sense when you learn what kind of personality your companions have. For example, your companion Nilan really hates the colonists, and he can react aggressively in dialogue. If you choose agreeable options when you talk with those NPCs, Nilan will disapprove and you lose points with him. Spiders created a fictional language for the natives, and they almost always speak like this.
Es hat hande herfreulige Venas. Es frichtum kaui suisi.
Seldis, es redone var hegenissenam.
But of course, the English voice acting is also in the game, and it's used a lot. By the way, Nilan was the most important character in my party, because he can be a great healer and a decent archer at the same time. This would be a good time to start talking about the gameplay, starting with the combat system.
Yourself, you're wounded!
The combat in Greedfall 2 is real-time with pause, which is quite different from the first game. However, the tactical party features are back, and they allow controlling your party in ways that you couldn't do before. Now you can take direct control of each and every one of your party members, issue a couple of commands in a row, position them however you like, and so on. First of all, you can choose one of 3 different difficulties, and you also have other options to customize the difficulty to your liking. I didn't touch these other options, but now I think I should have, because I found the hardest difficulty not very hard in general. So I actually encourage you to try out the tactical difficulty, especially if you're a veteran of CRPGs. I'm sure that overall balancing of the game and difficulties will change as we get more updates and contents. When you start making your character, you'll notice a lot of options for different playstyles. Greedfall 2 has 9 different profiles you can choose, and all of these profiles will mix 2 different skill trees. These profiles are essentially character classes, but you can also choose a classless playstyle, which allows you to fully customize your character with everything the game has to offer. That will be 6 different skill trees with active and passive abilities, along with other RPG elements like talents and attributes. So yeah, you have a lot of freedom of choice here, although the skill trees are still not fully completed, as you can see. Only the bottom line of the skill tree is available in these early access builds. What's really interesting about your companions is their unique skill trees. All of your companions have a unique skill tree where you can invest their leveling up points, if you wish. They also have a couple of more regular skill trees, but I think investing points into their unique skill trees is the way to go. That's how I made Nilan the most important character in the party, with his AoE heals and solid range damage. The combat itself will require you to use the pause feature quite a bit, at least on the tactical difficulty. You can issue up to 3 different commands to each and every one of your characters, including your main character. As long as they have enough action points, they will proceed to execute the commands if they are not stunned or something like that. This system works pretty good, and I personally like real-time with pause a lot more than turn-based combat. Although this kind of combat system is very similar to turn-based combat because, like I said, you're going to pause the game a lot. I like how you can move the character and at the same time issue 2 more commands after that. You can micromanage your party in combat if that's what you prefer. But like I said before, this version of early access build is not extremely hard, so there is no need for that, at least not yet. That being said, I did fail fights a couple of times. So my tactic was to always put the ranged characters and the healer behind everyone or above, while I pushed the melee characters up front. That's what I try to do in pretty much all CRPGs. All of your characters have magic and regular armor, and they will start shouting when the armor is down, because they start receiving a lot more damage after that.
My armor is completely ruined!
Same goes for the enemies, and you have abilities which can help you with getting rid of the enemy's armor, which I found very useful. The itemization system obviously has the same design philosophy, and you'll find similar stats on some of the weapons. Speaking of which, items have different quality levels, and they are color-coded like in many RPGs. By doing some exploration, you'll find better quality items for your main character as well as your party.
This will be useful.
There are a lot of items you can loot, even in this early version of the game. It's easy to see when you get an upgrade, but do take in mind that this green arrow is not always showing you the best item you can equip. I found a handful of unique items that are very strong. I also like the idea of making you choose to keep some unique items or use it to solve quests. There is a quest like this in the game, and I hope we see more similar quests in the full game as well.
Oh, what an exceptional weapon!
What do you think, my dear? Where do you think is the best place to sell this?
The stealth system is back, and you can knock out enemies before the combat even begins, or even complete certain quests like this. I didn't use it that much, but it definitely seems like a useful mechanic. I'm more interested to see if they're going to have some more quests that will give you stealth options, because I think that's pretty cool. As for some other major mechanics, Greedfall 2 has a special investigation mode which turns everything into black and white. This mode highlights all the lootable items, but it also highlights tracks for certain quests. It's much easier to see the tracks in this mode as well as the lootable items, but your character is much slower. Here's a little tip, just make sure to press the run button when you enter this mode, because you can still run but not that fast like you would normally. As you would expect in an RPG of this type, you have skill checks in dialogue like diplomacy or intimidation. You also have a lot of optional options in dialogue, where you can learn a lot more about what's going on, the characters, setting, and so on.
What are you doing with your arms just dangling there? Do you think we're gonna pay you just to stand there and do nothing?
The open world also has some skill checks for you, like disarming traps, following a trail, opening chests, and so on. You can find slightly hidden areas which require you to use items like explosives to blow up walls, use a rope or a shovel. All of these activities are usually worth doing because they reward you with good items. Some of the features in this game will definitely be familiar to you if you played the last game. For example, the camps are back, which are small places on the map which allow you to organize your party. You can also do some crafting, rest, or talk with your companions. You can have up to 4 people in your party, but even in this early access build, you'll get 6 companions in total. So you can choose who to bring with you in these little camps, although the main story sometimes requires you to have certain companions in your party. You also get to fully customize your followers however you like in terms of skills and items. The combat has an option to automatize your party members, as well as a couple of more commands that can make things easier. This can be done in the pause menu, where you can cancel your action queue as well. As for some gameplay tips, I recommend getting the alchemy attribute as soon as possible so you can make health and action potions. You'll find a lot of potions when you loot things anyway, but you'll also spend a lot of them very fast. So being able to make them at the alchemy table, which you can find in the camp and some other places, is very useful. The action potions are also very useful, and I save them exclusively for the healer. You'll need to heal your party in and out of combat, and you're going to run out of action points sometimes. The way you regenerate these points is usually by auto-attacking NPCs or with potions that I mentioned. This healing AoE spell from Nilan was the most important spell in the game for me. Just make sure to loot every plant and chest that you see, so you have enough materials for crafting potions. When you rest at the camp, you will also regenerate your health and skill points.
Welcome home, Alfida, and welcome to your guest.
And that will be it for this video. Once again, big thanks to Nacon for sponsoring the video, and if you want to check the game out, you can click the link in the video description. I will make more videos about this game for sure, and probably a full-blown review when it's all said and done, so stick around if you want to see that. Be sure to subscribe if you enjoyed the video. You can also support me by becoming a YouTube member or a Patreon. I also have some cool t-shirts and hoodies in the theme of the channel, so check that out as well. Huge thanks to all of my current supporters, and I'll see you in the next one.
From another world, the